Hey travelers, it's me, Caroline, Kim, and Xander, and this is
Immersive storytelling. We live. It's a hot set.
Well, hello.
Hello, travelers.
Hello.
We forgot our intro, so Caroline.
Hello, travelers. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Today, we're going to talk about sound design and sound and music and how the elements of the auditory senses will tie into immersive storytelling.
Oh yeah.
And
awesome
I guess
intro.
yeah, that's my intro. And
Yeah.
to that point, you guys can hear the sounds of the street.
Slightly, yes.
Mm-mm.
I can imagine them. I think we need to add some in right now, like in the post edit.
Mm.
Yeah. We have our coffee. We're ready to dive into this conversation. And sound is, I feel like I often ask this question to people that I'm getting to know, which like for the first time or something. And the question is, like what sense would you need, which sense would you be willing to give up? Or the question is, which sense do you absolutely need? And I feel like for me, my sense that I absolutely need is the sense of hearing. I prefer to hear my hearing rather than my sight, if it came down to it. So that's for me. And so I feel like I'm excited to dive into this conversation around sound. And I feel like it adds a lot of context cues and emotional cues and really, sort of resonates with people without the need for even language or visuals, which I think is crazy. Like that's huge. You don't need, but then at the same time, it provides this like sort of instant context.
Yeah, I like to say that music is a universal language because it connects us all. Bang. And I guess for context, just so like
and
people that are listening.
universe means uni meaning one and verse meaning song too. So it's like both ways.
I like that. And I guess for context, for people who are just listening in, Caroline and Xander are both musicians. I am not a musician myself, but I have a record label. So we are all very big lovers of music. Yes, bangers all day. Let's go. I might have derailed us, but let's go back.
Well, ask us a question.
No, I thought you got us on track. Yeah.
Oh, nice. All right.
Ask a question. Kim, you're great with asking these improv questions.
Ooh, pressure. Let's get it. Why do you feel like you connect? Like how would you explain your connection with music when you tell a story?
Yeah, that's a good one. I've just been waiting. I'm feeling angsty, so I've been waiting a little bit to share this story. But it's really interesting. My relationship with audio and sound and music is kind of became full circle because it was my original passion and love, and something like that I felt I felt connected to something greater than myself when experiencing, and was able to connect to people like through growing up in like the Black gospel churches and like singing and seeing that, that kind of reaction to just pop music, and how I was able to connect with my friends and stuff, all the way up until studying music in my undergrad. And the funny thing is, like, it was like my first senior year, because I took the super senior route for sure. But I realized that like while I was studying music, what I was searching for was really not, it wasn't just music, it was self-expression, it was creativity, it was innovation, and it was kind of in conflict because I studied classical music, classical voice. I was a tenor, studying classical music, arias, operas, and that kind of thing. And those, my guitar teacher one time said to me, he's like, that model doesn't really make sense to me. Only like the top 1% of 1% of everyone in the country is making music or making money doing that. There's no like modern music really related to that. And it just was like such a true, like a telling moment for me, because I was like, yeah, you're right, man. I like innovation and I want to express myself more. So, and not that music can't do that. Music can do that. It's just like what environment you're in. And I'm so grateful for the experience, because it was the first time I was like an outcast, where I consider myself to be an outcast in the art world or music world. And it taught me a lot of fundamentals of sticking through and grinding through things, even when they're hard and boring, to learn the fundamentals, because there's never been, as far as with tech, there's never been anything as hard for me personally to learn as learning an instrument, or learning or doing juries, or any of those sort of things. Like, software is intuitively designed to be easier for the user, instead of using 17th century models and modes. So, I love technology for that reason, but I have an ultimate respect for music and passion, because it took so long to master some of those fundamentals before you can, express yourself through the instrument or through the medium.
That's amazing. You've come like a long way. The digital transformation is real.
Yeah, and if I just want to take too much time, but the coming part of telling part of like coming full circle was when I started, after I moved off of music, and like I said, I had that kind of awakening. I didn't really want to go in the traditional route of music education or do classical music anymore. What my degree, one of the avenues that was open was art management and art direction, and I didn't really have that strong of the visual background. I had done like the yearbook on video on DVD, and been trained in some like video production and like yearbook stuff in high school, but that was it. So like it was really just diving back into the visual side of things. And like I mentioned, like I just felt like it was such a more open avenue than music, because it was based more at least the side I was going to, the digital side, was based a little bit more on innovation, and that really piques my interest and curiosity. When you can be really innovative with techniques, procedures, and mediums. So yeah, and since then I feel like I've found that, infused that, and have stayed true to the path, and just been able to still find a way to express myself through music. Whether that's DJing or playing music in the metaverse, or producing my own tracks for all the videos I'm making, or picking up a guitar and playing at NFT NYC.
Hey.
That was very cool. I was there. It was one of the
You're
coolest
there, yeah.
I've ever seen.
Those are the first times we ever like connected in real life. That was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so music's been great to me, and I think maybe in our first episode I said I think it's like the original immersive art, and it has like such a hack into our language models. I wonder if AI will understand music, or if one day we humans will just entirely speak in music when we're have higher emotional intelligence and vibrations and stuff. Like, will we just express ourselves through these art forms we see as entertainment in everyday life? Will we evolve to that point?
You like about a harp and you're like,
I think there's something to that, because I think one of my favorite parts about traveling is like finding the local music scene, because like it's amazing. Like, you could be on a dance floor with people from all around the world, but like you can be vibing, like sharing those vibes, and then it's amazing, because then you'll try to like speak to each other and you won't be able to, like, you have no idea. You're like, oh wow, I have no idea what you're saying, but you're both like just vibing there and feeling it. And, like, even when I'm like having metaverse parties with hopping metaverse parties like out with y'all, it's amazing, because like one of the things we do the most is like I'm literally just button smashing and my avatar just dancing, grooving, and it was like, wow, this is a fun time. Like, I think that's one of the beautiful things that connects us all. And on that note, too, Caroline, how would you explain your connection with music and your story?
yeah. So I started out as a classically trained piano player. And so similar to Xander in the sense that I guess we both studied classical music. And so, but for some reason,
It's not Baroque. Don't fix it.
Ooh, that is, I have not heard that in a while. That's really good. That is really good. Yeah, so classical, and at some point I spent more time sort of sitting in the piano, and I was very much so ear trained. Like my ability to hear a melody and then play it was a lot stronger than me sitting there and learning the actual notes on the score, for instance. So um, my ability to hear and then play overpowered my ability to learn from sheet music. And so which was definitely interesting, because my brother, on the other hand, definitely was really talented technically, and picked up the sheet music and practiced and was able to hold that relationship with learning classical music. I was not. I was like, I can hear it and I can play it, and then with the extra time I just sat there and pretended like I was practicing and it sounded good, so everyone was happy at home and they were like, oh, she put in her hours, like and everything sounded great in the outside until I got to the, I was able to get away with it for so long, and then the teachers would pick up on it at some point of me getting older and like the pieces getting harder, and so I was only able to keep that whole thing up for so long. And then at some point, the power of a teacher is profound, because if you don't have the right teacher that understands you or supports your voice, and understands also like the value of music. I mean, that there's one aspect of music that's like technical expertise, and then there's another aspect of music that's very keen with like improv, or like your ability to express or feel, channel a feeling and an output, and that also be just as important as the technical expertise, right? Because music kind of has this balance of both. Like it's not just technically trained perfection. Like, I mean, it's interesting because as we get closer to AI playing music, that might be AI's thing, right? Because it definitely is not a human being. It's learning from human beings, but it technically could be 100% on the click track, or like 100% on the beat, like, and 100%, maybe even like 200%, And so now for the technical, I don't know what music like, and there's always been this thing for me to keep going in music, that like I offer, a different channel, which is just me finding the ability to channel my feelings through an output without words, which happens to be music. Later in life, when I was in high school, started to add lyrics to the mix with my sister. She used to write poetry, or she still does, but back in high school, we would, sit together and sort of take her poems and put them to the music. And that's kind of how I started writing, sort of pop songs, and then got into that mix. And then later, also studied film scoring. And now today I write for fun, and I use sound as a means of explaining, or sort of contextualizing like inner dialogues and like street sounds, and like incorporating different sounds into the song, which is an overall sound story, to sort of bring everyone up to speed of like, this is the vibe, this is the story, and you can collect these sounds and understand maybe a larger story, or make it, make your own narrative with these pieces that I've provided. And those pieces are all sound samples that I, record. So yeah, I think my journey in music has been a long and one that's closely tied to my self-expression, and also discovering my voice and rediscovering it, many times and sort of channeling that out into notes.
That's amazing. I had a quick question, Caroline. I'm really enthralled by your expression. I follow you on TikTok, and it's just so unique. It's so unique, and the vibes. I was curious if you feel a different sense of, because I feel like you're creating and expressing from a different place than when you maybe do like client work or agency type work. And I was wondering if you felt like more like self-actualized. You've done some really progressive, ambitious things, I think. And I was just curious, like, do you feel more self-actualized, or like, are you just like getting ideas out there? Does that like fuel you to do more? What's that journey been like for maybe the last like 6-7 months?
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like TikTok as a platform, my behavior, my sort of expression is different on that platform compared to something like Instagram. And if I'm being transparent, I think it's because the audience is different. The audience that I have on Instagram pretty much, knows me and sees me in person, or has at least once. And, totally understand. Like TikTok, I'm connecting more with the internet audience, or people that I meet that I've never really met in person. And so it allows me to sort of output my expression without concern for judgment. And allows me to explore and experiment more with me being unfiltered, which is interesting because when I started in music, that kind of was my behavior before I entered corporate. And online, like when me and my sister had a band, Skyline Pigeons, we had a large internet audience on Facebook, and we were very unfiltered on there, and there's still videos out there, but Facebook was way different back in 2008 to 2012 than it is now. And like, people would leave videos on people's walls and things like that. And we would just do, a lot of video recordings on our music page that was like, send us a cover and we'll do one, or like, way more communicative, like in a way that is kind of similar to YouTube today. But was able, or even TikTok today, I guess, but was able to have that sort of environment where the comments or the judgment layer wasn't so prominent in the experience as a creator. And so it just kind of allowed you to just be you without concern for that. And so, yeah, I think over the last 6 to 7 months, my expression on these. So, yeah, I mean, as an individual, what I'm really leaning into is just, the power of you being you and without filter. And I think a lot of that shows on TikTok. And I'm gonna start bringing it over to the Instagram, but mainly going to translate that into my brand GNBH, because it's good night, beautiful human, and it's really a love letter to being a human being, and with that, being a human being means that you're imperfect, and so a lot of what I create on TikTok is not perfect. By all means, it's far from it, and intentionally, it's not. There's no need to for me to tell a story that that I know I can make, which looks perfect if it was under an agency. like if I was getting paid for like an agency work or whatnot, it would look, to your point, way different, and kind of feel less probably human, more like a brand. But, you know, I'm really over the last couple months leaning into what the feeling is like to be unfiltered and how jarring that could be and how freeing it could be also.
Awesome. Very insightful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I feel like you come across as a very like a performer. Like I think that's the best way I could describe your TikTok content, and that you just look just loving it. Like that's raw. That's Caroline being Caroline. Like, so, like you never know what you're gonna get, but it's like entertaining. It's raw.
Exactly.
Yes. No, I when I started IG, like even before like I did Pretty Theo app, my content was a lot more raw. So I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate that back in now that I've had to, you know, now I'm running the brand, but that's a story that's still coming. I guess wrapping it all back up.
Easy,
Huh?
It's not easy.
It's not like,
and it should be, because it's like it should be, but it's not. Especially like once we like work on the other side of it, where it's like,
it was easier when that was all I had, you know. But I think now that I've done like gone to the agency and the business work, my head gets too wrapped up in it that sometimes I forget like just how to do pure self-expression stuff that's not trying to sell. It's almost having to unlearn like how to just be myself and express myself.
Yeah.
I feel like a common feeling too.
Totally.
I feel like maybe some of it does come from like putting this pressure on myself, because like, you know, once you've become a content creator, like I think now we can consider ourselves all very much content creators. You could get lost in like that your content has to do something.
Right.
I didn't care about it before, and now that I do, I feel like it might in some sense stifle my creativity. Or it might, but it might help as long as you keep pushing through. So that's the thing I'm telling myself is like, I think as we get better at telling stories, and that's why I love that this conversation is around music, because I do feel like it does play a very key role into like how we tell our stories. Like from the reason why like I got so into music and computers in general was had a lot to do with like my first computer and like the internet. Like that was like it gave me the power to find music from all around the world. Like I had never been able to just like the reason why I got really good at computers is because I got so many viruses, because I was always trying to download music. Oh, there were so many those you know, you try to get a track and you kept getting that like Bill Clinton, I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Was this on Fire?
I thought you were gonna say
Yeah, you know,
Rickroll.
LimeWire, we've used a lot of things.
LimeWire,
Back
yeah.
when MySpace was the thing, like it was such a big part of like how to make your profile. Like if you wanted to have the hottest MySpace profile, your playlist had to be like hitting. You had to find like all the obscure things, you know. Like I was learning how to code, so like my little media player would be like popping. So like I had played around with like DJ, like virtual DJ and like Fruity Loops, but like I didn't. That's the thing I admire about like working with my artists now, is because they have YouTube tutorials. And like a lot of them have learned how to produce music from that. Back then, I was just pushing buttons, and like I kind of had like, you know, my older cousins who were like, yeah, you kind of do this, but they didn't really know how to do it much, you know, like we weren't trained properly. It was just kind of like you figure out as you go. But now you can, if you really want to learn something, you can. But like my whole thing about music was I'd always create like these. I still have them probably. I'd create like CDs back when there were CDs, you know, of just like playlists of like different vibes and stuff. And I still do playlists. So it's kind of seeing how like it's everything that I've ever done with music has like brought me full circle to like where I am now. You know, still making playlists, but it's just that are themed and have like a whole brand, but now it's just like at a level 100 than what it was. I used to make like album art before. Now we're doing it for
So,
actual tracks. So
I have
we're here.
I have a
Let's
quick
get it.
on this note. So making these playlists before streaming,
Yes.
how were you transferring it? Was it onto an MP3 device? Was it on an iPod? Was it not an iPod? I have a really special relationship with my iPod, but it's no longer.
I think I still have my shuffle, maybe. There it is.
Because they don't work. And it's really sad because that iPod meant the world to me. And also I would go to people's houses and like plug it in, like friends, and get their music.
Yeah,
Yes.
I remember that.
Oh my god, yes,
I
it's like
remember those
collecting Pokemon or something.
Yeah,
It was,
you
like,
plug
so
that into
dope.
someone else's. And you had to be sure not to erase all of your library with
Yes.
with theirs. It
It
was
was so hard.
one
You
pop
can drag and drop. Yeah.
You messed that up, then you messed that up. It was not good. And but that was a thing.
I was the music plug, and that's why it's kind of like funny, like bringing it full circle, because I was the person who was like, I'll make you CDs, I'll put your music on your iPod, you tell me what you wanted. I was downloading everything. Like I had a whole little factory. I made some money. That's how I made my money. I was like, in high school, like making it like out there. But
like,
yeah,
so
I think we did it all.
If you imported the CDs, you had to
I did floppies
you
before,
had to
even back
manually
then.
add the tracks and the album.
Burn it. Yeah.
And you had to literally create these databases yourself. It wasn't just
Yeah.
like
I would
Yeah, we were creating databases.
We
and
were.
coding.
you weren't just given
But genres, and a lot of it's so much easier to edit music now, but back then all I do over the weekends, or once I finished my homework, it was like I was just editing the music all day. That's all I ever did, was like categorize things. Yeah, those databases. Real
databases.
Yeah.
And now we're just given databases.
Ooh. I feel like I still create databases, but
Yeah.
that's just because like I have so much music. It's wild. Because there's so much music out there that's not even on streaming platforms that you can. I don't know. I just still wrap my head around like better ways to share it, because I feel like there's. I love the idea of we put QR codes places with like a track on it or something. I don't know. I'm throwing ideas out there for self-expression, but yeah, let's get it.
Yes.
This is exciting. Yeah, I forgot those days of making playlists.
So much fun, yeah.
I used to make a lot of mixed CDs.
Oh, I remember giving one to my first girlfriend, I think. You make a mix CD.
Yep.
All the love tracks on there.
It's thoughtful. And it's also like you get 15 to I remember there being like maybe 12 songs, but then the CDs got bigger, so it was like 15 to 18 minutes or something. At some point it was always like 15 to 18, and that's all you had.
Yep. Well, I would make like the sleeve for the album art, and then with a track list with like a fire thing, and I would make it so that people would give it to their girlfriends. Like I was the one making it. Like that was my little shop that I had.
I love that.
It's really funny coming full circle, and I still do it. It's just like at a different level.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh, we lost Xander.
Has left the meeting.
Mic drop. It was so heat. Yes. Get it. No, the nano. That was, I think, my last iPod. No, I got the bigger one. I remember I upgraded to the bigger one. No, I needed more space.
I just wish that my 256 megabyte or gigabyte, whatever it is, iPod worked again, but it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah. When I moved out of Seattle, I lost my real iPod, and then I had to buy like 2 other ones, and then those don't work. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
When my house burned down, I was just like, at least I have my iPod, Like it was like that, like one night, like that, you know, you were basically evacuated. And I'm just like, everything's fine as long as I have my iPod. You know, and then like I dropped my iPod like during the evacuation or something, and it like stopped working. And I was like, okay, I'm not okay now. And then like I literally like dropped it again.
Oh
To
no!
like,
Did it work?
yeah, it worked.
Oh, thank
We're
God.
good.
Yeah.
I was like, everyone leave me alone now.
Oh, real, real. Ugh.
That's awesome. You know, one other thing I wanted to kind of briefly speak about was when I got into like music audio production, I started
Mhm.
using like Native Instruments. They're a really cool sound company. But anyway, audio production, you know, I I feel like that it's the closest thing for me as maybe what the assets and things with like creation with AI it feels like because I didn't necessarily like not talking about like sampling other songs, but using the samples, the stock samples that were just incredible quality and sounds, and then combining those in original ways because I had licensed them, and I could be creative with the expression. Is kind of what it feels like for me for generating sometimes AI images and stuff and putting them together to get to the final idea, you know? So like I can either find or create images, still images, and then animate them and then put those animations together to make a video, or I can take like stock motion video clips and add special effects to them and like combine those with still images and music. There's just so many ways to combine them and get to the final idea. And I feel like it's the same way in music production. You know, you have your drum kits, your synths, your lead instruments, your pads, your sound effects, and then all the different uh um all the different what do you call them plugins that you use to amplify the sound or further edit the sound. um Anyway, I feel like it's very close to what generative AI is like for me, you know, a similar workflow. And I kind of view it as a producer in the end because like I love and I license and I pay for those sounds. Some of them I would create my own and do my own sound design too if I needed to. But either way, I just was really happy with the final output and like having that library of assets that I could purchase or pay the license and then like use creatively. I think that's a really good model that I you know, I see the visual side kind of leading to as well.
I
And
love that.
audio technology is always far preceded or exceeded visual technology in a lot of ways too. You know, even with like I think I mentioned this on the first episode, but still it's a great story that like with hearing the universe with radio astronomy and hearing the universe before we saw it, we you know we heard so much of it through the vibrations and then recreated, and it just kind of like I don't know, I like to see patterns from like the bird's eye view, bigger scope of things, and it seems like audio is especially with the universe being like more vibrationally and energetically, like I feel like the audio waves is like there's some kind of secret hack there humanity needs to embrace a bit more. um but yeah, it's really cool to see this renaissance of creative tools and expression at the same time. So I'm really happy to see everything catching up to where we can create and express at the speed of thought, you know, with
Mm.
all these different tools.
I guess I really love that because like I threw an event in San Francisco over the weekend, and one of the things I noticed is like the music plays a very big like it's basically the foundation of the event. You know, it tells the story of how it go and it sets the vibe of like how everyone's moving from like the start to finish. So it's always like a very nervous thing when the event starts and like no one's dancing and it's a little stressful at first because you could feel the tension in the room, and you're just like, okay, come on. I remember my brother, like, who was working indoor, he was like, yeah, I looked real bad at first. He's like, everyone looks like sticks in the mud. So it was very interesting for for me to like, all right, like, I'm like, how do we get people to start moving and stuff like that? You start to, you know, there's elements that you can kind of enhance the music to tell the story better. So it was very interesting to see, like, if you just added a couple more like lighting effects, people started to kind of feel the music more. It was like, I was actually there trying to figure out how to do lighting for a while, and I was like, this is kind of cool, because it feels like the more I do this, I started to like add some strobes here and there, change the colors, people are actually moving more or interacting with each other. But like the thing that got me is like, wow, this is a full-time thing. I'm like, I can't like, I had so much respect for like the other arts that come into like throwing an immersive music event, because there's so much more than just the music part that comes into it. You know, there's the people who do the visuals and are actually like they're like making sure that all the music, the sound sounds good. Like I couldn't imagine doing an event without a sound person. Because all those things, so many things could go wrong. You know.
That's interesting though, like, because I feel like you've noted that before with the lighting. Like when you brought light, it made people feel more comfortable. And it's just like, it is interesting because from a classics perspective, or like even a poetic perspective, like, or like the metaphor of light, like, it's just like, wow, like just coming out of the shadows and like illuminating like something does something to someone to make them move now or feel more comfortable or feel more seen. And so it's I wonder if there's something to that. Like it's just like, you know, you hear light, camera, action. Like when you shoot in production, you need lighting. And it's just like, what is this about this light? Like, you know, and it's like light and the camera and the lens are all creating this illusion. And it's like, is there something to this where we, you know, creating an illusion helps us feel more comfortable to be illuminated? Like, what is the psyche? Where is it going with this? Because back in the day when there was, you know, I'm looking at this book. These times.
Ancient, what's the title?
Music and Musicians in Ancient Greece.
Okay.
Back in these days, they you know, that's what I wrote my thesis on, was this emergence of this thing called the new music, which was a mimetic performance on stage that basically went away from the fixed lyre instrument, which was very Apollo-esque, and more towards this aulos, which is a, you know, a sound pipe, which is now today called like a flute. And you know, the flute allows for dynamics. You can go loud, soft. It's based on your breath. And the lyre is a fixed string instrument, which you can't quite change. You can't change the dynamics. You can't, you know, in those days, the lyre was a like very, it's like a harpsichord compared to a piano. Harpsichord, you can't play louder or softer. It's just is. And you know, a piano, for instance, you can add a little bit of dynamics to that. And so the evolution even of the piano completely changed classical music too. So it's like, you know, my point being is like back in the day in this ancient new music, they were expressing themselves through masks. And you know, I don't know what this like, if there was no electric lighting back then, which they did modify lighting with trap doors, and they were able to like change lighting at certain, like, you know, create certain illusions with the trap doors and lighting even back then. But if there wasn't any, you know, strobe lights or LEDs back then, they were using masks to a certain extent. And it's like, what is this about? We need to like wear masks or like create illusions so that we can like be free. Like, is it that TikTok thing that we're free of judgment? I don't know.
Nice. Yeah. I think it might be emotional. It might be like physiological too, because with the VR headsets, which is kind of essentially just lights in your face, or even video games. I don't know. Even the phones displays are just bright lights like in our face. But like patients can work through and not feel pain as much. Like do the same thing with a VR headset on and experience a low level of pain for extended period of time, as opposed to if they don't have it on, more pain and they can only do it for shorter. So I think there's something to that, like really powerful within our minds, that maybe helps transport us to another non-typical mind state, just something that's a bit different so we can be a bit different. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
It is interesting. I never thought about it until we're all together. Look at us, the Immersive Storytelling Squad, uncovering ancient secrets to modern times.
It's very cool, I guess, when you put like the modern times thing, like, so something that, like, now that I've done so many music events, that I've noticed is that they all kind of follow the same rhythm of, like, just like it's a book, there's an up and a down, especially like even house music in general. It has an up, a down, and then a bigger climax, and then a down, and that's usually the whole track. So
the accent denouement.
And the thing about an event is an event follows a similar structure. So usually the DJs who start out the night have to, there's there's kind of like, the culture of it is that the DJ that starts at a lower BPM, and their whole job is to kind of get the crowd a little going, but respectfully, they're not supposed to go as loud as the headliner. So even like with big music festivals, what they typically do to kind of even cheat the effect is that the people who play early on, the volume won't be as loud, and they gradually increase the volume as the night goes on. But for like, it's very interesting that I like, one of the biggest thing my DJs always say is like, what BPM are you playing? Because you want to be respectful about like, like who's playing before and who's playing after. So they know where to start and end there. So it's a little bit more of a smoother transition to the next person. So there's usually like a buildup of the BPM, and then like the headliner is like just going for it. And then it goes back down to like, if the event is a super long event, they'll start to wind people down, like usually that's when you put like a dance floor, you start to put those slow tracks, like people, they're about to go home type thing, to kind of get the crowd a little bit down and like ready to get out. So it's very interesting how like there's also things within the music itself that like kind of set, you're controlling a whole vibe with how the music's going.
Yeah. I didn't even realize that about the headliner and like the levels, and
sometimes it's so noticeable that you're kind of like, what? Like, you didn't have to do it that drastically. Like, I didn't even know you had speakers back there. But like, but yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah, like the DJs control the groove with the tracks. The good show providers or showrunners will provide the groove of the whole festival. Kind of like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Very, very insightful. Let's go, Kimmy.
Let's go. We're making moves out here.
That makes it more immersive with dynamics, and then also like with the level of intoxication, I think maybe too.
No, yeah.
Like,
like that like peak hours usually around like midnight, typically like at a typical club. So around then, that's usually when the music is like at the loudest and the BPM is the highest, and people are just going off the sound. Like everything's kind of like, yeah.
Incredible. Well, travelers, and are we pilots? Are we travelers too? Who are we?
We're journeyers.
We're journeyers, even better.
We're journeying together.
Have you Journey X1?
We're also travelers.
we're all on a trip together, right, man?
We're all on a trip. We're trippers. So
Hurling through
this is not the
space.
Star Tripper pattern, but I do have a Star Tripper pattern.
Oh,
Yay.
This is the Stardust pattern.
Love
that's
it.
awesome.
All right. Should I stop it here? Because that was bars on bars.
Over and out, travelers.
But Kimmy's got to do her sign off.
Yeah.
I forget my sign off every time. And
Woo,
See you on the next episode.
Yes, yes.
oh,
yes.
yeah. See you on the next episode. I think I should tap this. Stop. Get it.
Stop it.